call the July 11th meeting of the Glenwood Community Development Corporation meeting to order. It is 7 o'clock. If I could ask for roll call to start with you, Pat.
Pat Sheehan.
Barry O'Cambry.
Mike Dyson.
Becky Fiddleman.
Susan Miller.
All right. And for the record, we have City Attorney or RCDC Attorney Charlie Zek, as well as City Administrator Amber Lewis present. I'm going to call up public comments, but we've got a couple people walking in. Should I, for the new attendees, do you guys want a public comment? Yes.
No, that's fine. I was going pretty right.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'll put the list here. Okay. For public comment, we've got 9 folks signed up. Let me premise this by saying this is what I am anticipating being the first of a number of public comments and opportunities for the public to comment on this. With that said, for the sake of respecting everyone's time, I'm going to ask that everyone hold their comments to 3 minutes. And if it's okay with everybody, I'm going to be strict about enforcing the 3 minutes, okay? I'll try to be polite about giving you a heads up. With that, Ms. Patterson, would you?
Thank you. I'll, in the interest of time, and y'all's time, everybody's time, I'll read into the record rather than speak extemporaneously. My name is Robert Patterson. I've lived at 3205 Pickwick Lane for 30 years. I love Rollingwood Park. I go there daily and have served on the Park Commission. I'm also a supporter of youth athletics. I've played athletics all my life. I'm not very good anymore, but I'm still in the fight. So this isn't about athletics. I'd like to begin by pointing out that Rollingwood Park is not Zilker Park. Whereas Zilker Park is a large area with almost no contiguous housing, Rollingwood Park is a small area with 100% contiguous housing. Every time something happens in Rollingwood Park, such as a bouncing basketball or an event bringing dozens of cars to the area, it affects a resident who lives across the street. A few years ago, the city decided to rent the park pavilion to all comers. That was what was once a quiet and peaceful part of the neighborhood became a nightmare. 60 days per year, people would come from as far away as Buda to throw parties in the park. Private birthday party contractors were renting the pavilion and bringing their clients to the park. In other words, there was a commercial enterprise being run in a residential neighborhood. Neighbors were subjected to a mini ACL 60 times per year. It took us 4 years to reverse that decision and rent only to Rollingwood residents who would respect the neighbors and follow the rules. This, by the way, is a perfect example of why we don't allow short-term rentals in the city. I respectfully ask that you or whoever listens to this always bear in mind the effect of your decisions upon your constituents who live near the park. Secondly, I would like to suggest that one only need look as far as Zilker Park to see what could potentially happen when a for-profit entity takes control of a public facility. I'm going to disagree with some of my friends in here on this, but we can still talk to each other and be friends at the dog park. A beautiful, tranquil green space wherein beats the heart of the city of Austin, once per year is turned into a raging inferno of noise and confusion, which spills out all over the surrounding neighborhoods. As just one example of what can happen when profit is a motive, last year it rained during ACL. That day was supposed to be canceled to avoid damage to the park, is what I was told. However, a decision was made that it would be more profitable to fix the damage than to cancel and refund tickets. Zucker Park was closed during the third week of September 2018. Large portions of the park were still roped off and unavailable to the public on March 31st, 2019. That's 6 months of closure. Parts of the park are still trying to recover today. I was there today. Some say ACL fixes the damage. I would like to suggest that it's a very simplistic way of looking at the dynamic. Just this year, acres of sod were replaced in the park at a cost of millions of gallons of water, tons of fertilizer, who knows how much diesel fuel for cutting, transport, and laying of the sod at Zilker. This was followed by millions more gallons of water from the Colorado River, fertilizer and herbicide in the park itself. The sod is meant to be laid once, if at all. In Zilker, it is nearly a yearly occurrence on a huge scale. The environmental cost is huge, but never spoken of. All of this is in the name of profit rather than in the interest of the citizens of Austin and Zilker Park. Is that 3 minutes? I'm almost done. In summary, I would like to respectfully suggest that you consider potential unforeseen consequences of leasing Rollingwood Park to a for-profit entity. Please consider the potential effects of this decision on your constituents, the citizens of Rollingwood. Thank you very much. Sorry. I went over. Sorry.
Okay. Jay Howard. And sorry, I probably should mention, just for anyone who's, it looks like everyone is familiar, but just in case, name and address, just for future minutes preferences.
Sure. My name is Jay Howard. I live at 907 Ridgewood. I've lived there for 25 years. And I realize there are a lot of details about this proposal that I'm not aware of, and perhaps many of us are not aware of, and those will make a big difference. So we'll talk in generalities here that may frame your approach to how you view this. In my mind, the park is the gem of our neighborhood, and it doesn't make sense to me why we would give up control over this park to an unelected group of people. Maybe that's not how it's going to happen, but that's how it strikes me as what's happening. I would feel very strongly that that's a terrible thing to do, that we would want to keep it as close to our own constituency as possible so that we can, as has been suggested, do the things that are compatible with our neighborhood, with our neighbors, and the way we want our community to be run. So I would be very circumspect about doing this just for economic reasons. If, as you suggested earlier on, Mr. Dyson, that there's a potential 501c3 element to this, why couldn't we do a separate 501c3 like the Eames Educational Foundation to support the park? Why do we have to give up control over the park to the trust to then bring in charitable dollars? I don't see, I'm sure there are details I don't know and don't understand, but I would suggest that we go that route as opposed to doing this. So I hope you'll take that general feeling about not giving up control once you approach this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Elizabeth Coker.
Can I just speak from here? Can you all hear me?
Yeah, please, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mary Elizabeth Coker. I live at 3306 Gentry Drive, and I have for about 30 years. And thank you so much for your time this evening. And I agree with Mr. Howard. The park is the gem of Rollingwood. So my concern is about our plans, the proposed plans to turn over the running of the park to a trust to operate for a number of reasons. And first of all, the proposed board of directors does not have any city staff or residents on it other than those involved in athletics. But this park belongs to Rollingwood, and we're not all involved in athletics. I'm not in any way, shape, or form, and yet I'm at that park 5-6 days a week. So I'm really concerned about that. And is this trust compatible for the rest of us that are not involved in Rollingwood? I mean, in athletics. Second of all, if this is truly a financial issue, I think maybe we need to look at where we get the money from, if that's what it is. If it's about money, the Rollingwood Women's Club last year spent $10,000 on the TV here. If they would have known we needed money for the park, I'm sure they would have donated money to the park. I'm concerned one thing is the signage at the park. I think that's unfair to the neighbors. Never have we put signage at the park on those fences. I don't think that's appropriate in this neighborhood. In the past, we've had trouble with trash at the park. We've got that somewhat under control now. If we start talking about a restaurant at the park, I think that's going to lead to more debris, and I think that's not necessary. Also, if we start talking about a restaurant or a cafe at the park, when are they going to start talking about lighting at the park? We don't need more artificial lighting. We don't need artificial light at night. The city of Westlake is so close to becoming a dark sky city. Let's be a good neighbor. So my husband was a founding member of the RCDC, and he and I, including the Rollingwood Women's Club, have a vested interest in this park. We put heart and soul into this. So I tell you, I speak as a person with passion for this. So also I was on the board of Rollingwood. I was an officer with the Rollingwood Women's Club for decades. I co-chaired the first 5K run that we did here in Rollingwood. So I'm not foreign to this. I've been involved within the community for years. And maybe this isn't the time to ask it, but Mr. Frankie, I'd like to know where I can get a copy of the financial projections if we are to lease to this group. Do we have that now?
I don't think there are.
Okay. Well.
We weren't furnished any financial
Okay.
projections. So just to, sorry. Probably
Go
not
ahead.
appropriate for me to respond. I'm actually not supposed to respond. Is that correct?
Well, it's on the agenda, so however you want to handle it. It's on the agenda.
So because I'd ask when we move to the agenda, we can have the discourse, and right now we'll keep it open for public comment.
Okay, thank you very much.
Shanti?
I have some pictures here before I go up to the field house before. The people that were there to inaugurate the land and the field house today. I have a whole bunch of other pictures, but at least for the moment I thought I should show you all this. Shanti Jayakumar, 3309 Park Hills Drive. And I just want to tell you, I've lived half my life in Rollingwood. And 25 years, I have been the historian for the Rollingwood Women's Club. So if you will indulge me, I may go a little over, I'll try not to, but I wanted to give you all a history behind why it is so important to inform every single resident of Rollingwood before we take any precipitous action on this matter. Okay. In the interest of full disclosure, I want to let you know I have informed every member of our community that has served either on the council or as mayor about these proceedings. I'm hoping some of them will be sending you their comments. And incidentally, I served 4 years on the city council. The real deal here is the people of Rollingwood, because the park belongs to every resident. It is the heart and soul of our community. I cannot imagine having an outside entity taking over the management of the park without having citizen input before any deal is signed, and for a 15-year lease at that. Every resident has contributed either their hard-earned dollars or donated their services. Here is a quick listing. The Park Commission, the RCDC, Rollingwood Women's Club, the Police Department, the Public Works, the Boy Scouts, who donated one of the shaded stands, and hundreds of volunteers who gave freely of their time, talent, dollars, and physical labor to clean the park area, plant the trees, etc., to the condition it is in today. I have gathered here in this binder every article that I had saved from 1984, I still do, up till 2010, which is the period when the parkland was purchased from the Optimist Club to the time that Doyle Moore Fieldhouse was dedicated. List of contributions, and I'm going to run down this very quickly. This is all about money, so let's talk money. In 1984, the Western Hills Optimist Club, a non-profit corporation, owned the land. The latter created the Western Hills Youth Association, also a non-profit, to run the extensive Hatley Park fields. In January 1990, zoning changed to the park. According to the paper reports, the park that wasn't a park is now a park. But guess what? After 2 decades of being designated residential use, apparently the council had taken a rezoning vote that was declared null and void because the vote was 3-1 and did not constitute 3/4 of the council as required by Texas law. Fast forward, in April 1990, Rollingwood proposes buying the 7.8 acres of parkland from the Optimist Club with the $200,000 that was returned to the citizens of Rollingwood for the 125% overcharge by Austin on water bills. That was citizens' money, and the citizens decided by a referendum, which was not allowed, but the mayor and mayor pro tem paid for the referendum. So, and it was a huge decision. Citizens said, "Okay, let's buy the parkland." Okay. Add to this mix the news that the Optimist Club had failed to reapply for their nonprofit status and had outstanding taxes due $64,000.
I want to be fair to everybody.
Yeah.
I've already capped other comments at 3
Okay.
minutes.
Okay, I will run down the cost then, okay? Just before I finish.
Sure. Can I offer one alternative?
Sure.
It seems your comments are written. Would you mind submitting your written comments?
I do not mind, but I will just want to tell you all, so between the monies that were spent, we have spent $1 million of the citizens' money. Sweat equity, there's no dollar number that I can put for that, okay? All of this stuff is in here, but if my 3 minutes are up, I will grant that the next person speak. But I just think everyone on the council needs to think that this issue has to be vetted in the community by however many meetings it takes. The August 1st drop deadline is meaningless. Okay?
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate
I
your
will
passion.
submit this.
Hey, thank you very much.
Okay.
We'll have a number of other opportunities for public
Okay,
comment.
all right.
Marina, Rita?
Marina Breland, 2808 Rollingwood Drive. I've lived in Rollingwood for 35 years this summer, and I've served on the Park Commission, currently on the Park Commission, a little over 2 years. And I just want to talk in generalities, because I don't think there are a lot of facts yet for us to really pick through. And the big picture. And this is about money. And this park is our jewel in this community, and it's our gathering place, and could even be more so. And we all feel passionately about it for whatever reason, and that's wonderful. But we need to continue to be good stewards of this asset, this priceless asset. And we don't have enough money to do it, given our current resources. So we need to figure out how are we going to continue to be good stewards for the park and to improve the park. We sent out a request for proposals on leasing. This was the only one response we received. We invited people to the party and only one showed up. So this is far from perfect, but it's a starting point for possibilities. Certainly, I agree with the community's concern about losing control or losing oversight. We can't lose oversight of the park. That is paramount importance. But we also have to figure out how are we going to pay for improvements going forward that we, the community, want. I think there's a lot to massage with this, even going forward in negotiating, but it's a talking point to start. And I think this could be a vehicle to invite community philanthropy, because it's here within our small community, and we need to tap that. And there are people waiting and willing to do that. I think they need some direction, and that's what city staff and volunteers will be. But let's face it, we're all volunteers. we only have so much time we can give, and we're not able to do the park justice as it is, and we need help. But we can be picky about the help we're asking for and the oversight that we have over it. So let's try and keep an open mind. That's what I'm asking. And please don't get bogged down in information in the Picayune, on Nextdoor, because remember, the city cannot disperse information or have dialogues through those media. So please come to the meetings. We have spots open on the Park Commission. I encourage you to get involved, to be here, and be a part of the solution and the progress moving forward. And we've talked about what absolutely keeping the public informed to our best ability, because this needs to be what we want and how we provide oversight. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. John Patillo.
My name's John Patillo. I live at 3 Rockaway Cove. We've lived in that residence for now 18 years, 15, something like that. And I also played soccer in Rollingwood Park when I was the age of my son. So I've seen it for a long time. I perhaps might bring a different perspective in my professional capacity. I am a person who executes large-scale events, mostly in public parks, what might have been termed apocalyptic hellscapes of noise and trash and destruction. I may or may not have something to do with things that are characterized as such. But in my professional experience, I do have a lot of experience in working with public parks, working as a private entity, and actually in a lot of those parks, working with the private foundations that also support the parks. The one thing that I have, present company excluded, the one thing that I see around the country, I was just on the phone with people in Nashville today, is that complaining about what happens in the park is cheap and easy. Making a park better, improving it, preserving it, bringing it up to date, making it even safe, that's really hard. It's easy to complain and it's easy to object and it's easy to wish, wax nostalgic about the way things used to be. But it is expensive and it is difficult to actually maintain the parks. And I think we all know that here. I've had more than enough pillow talk in my house about budget shortfalls and what we're going to do with the park and what could be done, what can't be done, how are we going to pay for it. We're standing in a building that nobody knows how to pay for, to renovate because of we're just a small community, and those things are very important. But outside investment, I believe, should not be instantly light the torches and pitchforks, for lack of a better term. In terms of the deal points that I am somewhat familiar with, I would say that it also is easy to promise things, but it's difficult to execute them. I know this firsthand in my job. So I would like to see a 2-year probationary period on the if whatever entity kind of takes over the administration of it, and then with a 5-year, then have the deal renewed at 5 years, because 15 years is like in perpetuity. That's like forever in this business. And so I'd love to see the 2-year probationary period, the 5-year renewal rate. You can have right of first refusal if they're doing a great job. There's no problem with that. And then, most importantly, because this is near and dear to my heart, I would love to see the city maintain a modicum of control in terms of the 4 or 5 heritage events, that's what I've been calling them, that we have in the park anyway. I would not want to cede control over the 4th of July parade or the National Night Out or what with our new outstanding tradition in December of Police Navidad, which I personally really like. I'd love to see the city have a carve-out in the contract or the agreement that gives the city those guaranteed controls. The city of Austin has the exact same thing on the parks there as well.
Thanks, John. Jonah Patillo.
I'm Jonah Patillo. I live at 3 Rockaway Cove. But I have something about the parks. There aren't enough sports. It's only baseball, and that kind of gets boring when you've played it for about 5 years. I request that there should be some other fields, like soccer and football, to make people not be bored. But also, my dog is super sad when T-ball's on because they're blocking the field from the dogs, and the dogs are really sad. So, I want to see a dog field that is not the T-ball fields. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Sandra Farrell.
Sandra Farrell, 3223 Park Hills Drive, and we've been here about 38 years. I have been on the Park Commission many different times, and I'm serving presently. And when I read the proposal, there were a lot of things that I think that we need to negotiate or say no to. We don't want to lose control of our park, and our park makes Rollingwood, and our park events are one thing that draws people to Rollingwood. So I don't want to see us lose control of the park. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I don't see the attraction to having a cafe here where we have Paneras and other Rollingwood businesses that are nearby. It seems like, to me, part of the problem might be that Little League isn't putting enough money into the parks. So who is this helping? Is it helping Little League or is it helping us? I don't know. But anyway, I don't want to see it become too commercialized or to where we can't enjoy our park because they have some fundraiser or commercial thing that does not benefit Rollingwood. It sounded like it is their profit. And I don't see the benefit for us other than those initial improvements, which really gives Little League an out. I don't know, But, so I just want to have a lot of hearings. If that's the way you feel that it needs to go, then we need to make sure that everything is looked at and negotiated with and not accept just what they propose because it doesn't have our interest at heart. I don't think, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Farrell.
Tom Farrell, 3223 Park Hills Drive. Been here 39 years, I think, and I hope that's not half my life. Mr. President and members of the board, we thank y'all for y'all's service. I'd like to point out a few things. I'll give you a little history of some of the things we've done with the park. And I'll start by saying this. Rollingwood's founding documents has a provision in there that says that when we're speaking and when we're addressing our elected officials and our people that are on our commission, we're going to treat them with respect and be responsible in how we do that. And I think that's something that at every meeting we probably should read that again just to make sure if we did. Not that anybody's doing that tonight, but that's something that's important that we all do. We're all volunteers, and everybody's doing that. So we did buy this park, as Shanti was talking about. The vote was 55% is what we got to be able to do that. So this was not a slam dunk deal, although most elections now 55 is a landslide, so we'll just go with that. from day one, the first time we did this, our deed restriction on buying that property restricted our use to having youth athletics for the West Bank on that field. And we did that by leasing it to the Little League. And I believe our first lease with the Little League was 15 years. So this is not something that's been, it may have been 10, but I think it's 15. It's something y'all might want to look at from that standpoint. Every year that we would have a hearing, and the Little League was required to do certain improvements. Every council meeting that I was involved in since at least 1998, the Little League had a problem meeting their goals of doing the little bit of improvements that they had to do. So this is not a new issue that we've dealt with it since 1990 when we first acquired the park and leased it to the Little League on that. This is a continuous issue that we've had on that. We've had some other issues about what we do with that. Right now, the Little League has a responsibility, and the girls softball now has a responsibility to maintain the park, subject to reporting to the City Council and to the Parks Commission. I think that legally it's probably they report to the City Council. Historically, the City Council has given that to the Parks Commission for comments, and they get that back on that. So we're not doing, you know, the term of the lease is something that you can look at, of course, and I do like the probationary period. I think that's probably good to find out because we're going into something a little new. New's not necessarily bad, but we look at that. Sorry. I'll comment on when we bring the item up, the rest of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Amy Ives.
Good evening. My name is Amy Imes. I live at 3302 Gentry Drive, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak today. I have been relatively involved in Rollingwood and the events that we have had over the last few years. I've been the special events chair for the Rollingwood Women's Club, and I have loved seeing our community get together in the park on so many occasions to be able to celebrate with one another, get to know one another, and to really enjoy the space that we all live in. I am speaking tonight not because I have an opinion one way or another. It's that I'm concerned I just learned about this as an issue, and I really don't yet understand the impetus for needing to bring in a company to take over the park. That's not to say that it's not true that that is needed. I just don't know. I've been to City Hall countless times over the last few years. I have talked with city employees. I've been very active, and again, I'm just surprised that this is very new news, and I feel like a lot of residents might share that same feeling. I would love the opportunity to be able to look at the proposal, to be able to learn more about why we are hiring or looking for a company to lease Rollingwood Park, to better understand the unexpected or unintended consequences that might arise from such an action. I do know that from being at a previous city council meeting that the city council and the mayor very wisely evaluated 2 search firms when looking for our chief of police, and that seemed to be a process that was going to be very thoroughly vetted and well thought out, and that was just to bring in candidates that would then be interviewed. I have not heard anything about the potential lessor, but I feel a little concerned again that there is just one party at the table, and also when we haven't necessarily looked at comps around the country to see if a similar model has been employed. I would like to see examples for how firms have come in, how the development has happened, what the impact was on residents, and how any issues that were unintended or unexpected were troubleshooted. I just feel like there is a lot of information that we don't have, and I realize that that's always going to be the case in decisions that are decided by the City Council on behalf of residents, but because the Rollingwood Park is central to our community, both in geography and in time use and in how we all come together, I do feel like there has to be a higher standard in the level of transparency that residents have with what the issues are and why we are even pursuing this type of action, and then B, what the follow-through is going to look like, because I don't yet know that. And as somebody who loves being a part of the events that we have and loves the day-to-day use that we all are afforded and being able to access our park, I would just like to better understand how that might change. And I say that with the deepest respect and appreciation for all the work that you all do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we don't have anyone else signed up for public comments. With that, is there anybody else here that would like to comment publicly? No.
Are we going to speak up when it
Yes.
comes up for agenda, right?
It's literally coming up.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Steve. Okay. Item 4, approval of minutes for May 9, 2019. Do we have a motion on the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Do you want to move to approve?
Yes.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are adopted. Thank you. Item 5, discussion and possible action regarding a proposal from Rollingwood Park Trust to operate, maintain, and lease the City of Rollingwood athletic facilities. So, this is to open this up, I want to apologize to the RCDC. I put this on the agenda at the 0 hour, and the only reason this was included for us to talk about in this forum was because, unfortunately, the Park Commission was unable to make a quorum and start the conversation for us. So what I wanted to do was make sure that the public had, as early notice, a next bite, so just to address some of the comments that we have received here. This proposal was only presented to council at the June meeting. So this is literally the second time that this has happened. I hope that helps with some of the concerns around transparency. This is not a conversation that's been going on for some excruciatingly long period of time under people's noses. With that said, I'd also like to let the public know that this town or board, commission rather, only just received the documents this evening, and they have not had time to vet these. There is no intent, to my knowledge, for this board to take any action. Again, we wanted to make sure that the public had an opportunity to start the conversation. So with that, I will open the floor back up to quick comments. We'll hold it to 3 minutes from anybody that has anything additional. Steve, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind leading off just after hearing everyone.
Thank you.
My name is Steve Frank. I'm the board president of Western Hills Girls Softball. We are the current leaseholder of the main lease up in the park. This was part of our lease proposal was getting Little League and softball together. We were introduced to community members, a couple community members that were forming this nonprofit and wanted to brainstorm with us. They had lots of different ideas to make the park better, and really overall, there's a lot of new things they want to do there, but the proposal itself is in essence setting up the same type of lease that's been in effect since the creation that softball and Little League have been up there. Our lease has always said operate and maintain the park. It's never been a lease to where we just pay a rent and then the city operates it. We actually set up all the vendors, all the maintenance, and most of the work, the mowing and everything that goes up there. We pay for the water, the utilities. So the proposal in itself, I feel, is it's not completely different than what was in effect. We are forming a new nonprofit, or I'm not, but someone else is. And so we're not changing things. They are brainstorming a lot about how to make the park better. And so I think everyone's open to what that can be. And so I think a lot of it was based on trying to have more family activities and bring the community as the person that's one of the persons involved. He really loves coffee, and he likes to get together with people over coffee, just like I know a lot of the dog owners go and walk in the park and get together and they talk and communicate there. So that was kind of just an idea he had. A lot of it was making more family-friendly events and stuff up there. So I don't think it was anything to take control of the events that are currently going on. I have not heard that at all, that they want to take 4th of July or certain events that have been going on forever. It's trying to create new, better things for the community, and that's all I wanted to say. I mean, I don't think we were trying to really. People are making it sound like we're trying to take over complete and honest control, and I think the way the lease is written, the city still has a lot of control. I don't think it would change that much more in the negotiations and the wording of the lease going forward. We still have to, as I said, go to the Park Commission and present things, go to the City Council and present things when changes are made. So I just wanted to start off, and then I'll just listen to other comments.
Steve, thank you very much.
I'm not signed up.
That's quite okay. If you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself.
Yeah, sure. I'm Patrick Fries. I live on the fringe of Rollingwood. Go to the park every day. I think Western Hills has a great story to tell as a nonprofit, but for those of us who know Western Hills, it's a business. You guys are a full-fledged business to be reckoned with. There's no doubt that what their intentions are, wherever they go, is to bring sporting events with a very business focus. So for you to kind of say, oh, it's just a Little League, we're just trying to bring Little League, Western Hills is a business entity, and if you want to share with us your tax returns and your income and all those things and have complete transparency, I'd be all interested to see that, because what I've seen when Western Hills comes in, it's a machine. And what I hear people from Rollingwood saying is, we got a park. We have a community park where people gather to do yoga and sporting events, and dogs come. It's a peaceful entity. And when you transform that into a serious business entity under the cloak of a nonprofit, you change the dynamic of this little jewel that you have. So you only have one chance. When you turn it over to Western Hills, it's out. It's gone. They may be reporting to you for leasing instructions, but make no mistake, Western Hills is a business entity. So dig into their tax returns, check out the business structure, see their other organizations. They've done great things for kids. What they will do to this park is may not be in the best interest of your community. That's my 2 cents. I'm just speaking on behalf of what I know of Western Hills. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Can I ask a question? Patrick,
Yeah.
are you Marina Breland? Are you referring to girls softball or Little League particularly?
In terms of Western Hills?
Yes.
I'm just talking about the business entity of Western Hills.
The business, I don't follow you.
Well, Western Hills is in the business of providing sporting activities for youth, right? So it's a nonprofit, but I'd be interested to see the business structure of Western Hills. I mean, that's all I'm saying is that he said he's open to transparency. I'd be curious to see what the business structure looks like in terms of revenues and where you're operating and who your advertisers are, where your income comes from. So when you get a lease for Rollingwood Park and you start putting billboards up and signs, what's the income stream? We should know what that is. We should participate in that income stream. It's a business entity as much as it is a sporting activity for youth.
So we do submit financials and our 990 each year, and our 990 is public information. Anyone can go get any nonprofit's 990. Go to guidestar.org, and you can look up Western Hills Little League and Western Hills Girls Softball and see full financials.
So that's submittal of the financials. I'm not a CPA, but we all know you can.
Sorry, I don't want to stifle the conversation,
That's fine.
but I do want us to maintain
Civility.
and decorum. We can open up the comment. Tom?
I'll just finish what I was going to
Yes,
ask
thank you.
on that. Tom Farrell, 3223 Park Hills Drive. A basic question is what we have now and what the proposal is. So what changes on this? And I think it would be very, very beneficial if we went through the different issues that we have. The term of the lease is something that is going to change because I think now we've gone down to a 5-year rather than a 15-year lease. The improvement structure, they have to come in now, the Little League has to come in now and show and get approval for what improvements they're doing. Is that going to be the same? And I think it would be beneficial for all of us to see, just break it down on what we have and what is proposed on an operational standpoint and who on the control issues that we have and who uses the park and that sort of thing. And so I think that would be something that we could do. And I guess a base question I would have, just sitting here thinking, is, so we have a lease with the girls softball, I believe now. We switched that over. Is there anything in our lease that would prohibit them from subleasing it to the park trust and doing basically the same? What would change from the standpoint of the city's overview and deal, with the exception of possibly income that might come to the city? But I think that would be a very easy way to look at this, is to say, okay, this is what we have, this is what we've had in the past, and this is what is proposed, and these are the things that might change or stay the same or whatever on that. I'm not going to ask you to put you on the spot for a legal opinion, whether you can do that or not yet. I'll do it some other day. Don't worry. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Tom.
Sandra Farrell, 3223 Park Hills Drive. I just have, I guess, a question. When I read the proposal, it talked about a restaurant and the improvements to the Doyle House to make it a restaurant. That's a lot different from coffee in the morning. So I just want to make sure we know what we're getting into.
Sure.
I don't want to see a restaurant in our park.
I think that's.
I don't want the smells. I don't think the neighbors would want the smells, the traffic, the lights, everything that goes along with that.
I think that comment, along with a number of comments, all comments that I've heard, are pretty valid concerns.
Yeah. So.
And sorry, but
no, go ahead.
We discussed a lot of this at the last city council meeting, and I can assure everybody that these items will be discussed in greater detail at the city council meeting. I just want to reiterate again, most of this body is seeing these documents for the first time.
Yeah.
So.
Or not.
Or not at all.
Not at all.
and so again, this RCDC is not a deliberative body that would make a decision on this.
Right.
So I just want to encourage us, it's not an effective place to get into the weeds on.
But it's a chance to let y'all know what we need to
Absolutely.
be looking at and
Absolutely.
not sign off on this
Absolutely.
without everybody really
completely agree with you. And
making sure that
to
we're
the point of the
benefiting.
restaurant, I've heard it described more fittingly as robust concessions rather than an actual restaurant. So that's.
I'm just pulling that word out of the
Sure.
document I read.
That's fair.
That's where I got the word.
That's fair.
And Mayor, or board chair, whatever title you'll have to go by at this meeting.
Depends on what hat you're wearing.
I would like to make clear that this body will have zero input legally into whatever happens, if it happens. They are not a deliberative body with respect to this lease. They are not involved in the process as to whether or not it will be approved or not approved. As the mayor stated, the the Parks Commission was going to have input. They couldn't make a quorum. That they are a deliberative body that would have input. And because the mayor wanted to give the public an opportunity to at least make comment, he put it on this agenda. But this body is not going to have any input other than the same input that y'all have in this process and what ultimately occurs, if anything. I want to make that clear. I want to protect my board here so that y'all understand that they're not going to be providing, other than their individual input, as everybody else gives, they are not going to be sitting in judgment or making recommendations. So I'm protecting my board here.
I have one more question. So RCDC has been directing money towards the park, is that correct?
That's correct. So RCDC,
can I ask you how much?
Yes, I'd love to discuss that actually. $80,000 a year is what RCDC currently contributes out of its revenue stream.
So with these new houses, like there's 3 big giant houses that are getting built here.
RCDC receives a portion of its sales tax, and our primary function via the state legislature is to allocate those monies primarily to bolster commerce in our city.
Yeah,
As a secondary, we can caveat some of those monies into our park system. And anytime you talk with anyone at the state ledge to let them know that you're allocating funds to your park, it gives them heartburn. It was a compromise for the benefit of small cities like ours with limited commercial opportunities so that we could allocate to the benefit of our community some of these sales tax dollars. Over the years, if you were to follow RCDC's contribution to the park's bottom line, it has grown substantially. And I, for one, appreciate the fact, I think, we can talk about return on investments in a number of ways. Quality of life is a big one. And I see one of the functions of RCDC is providing a high level quality of life for our park system and for the rest of our community. That said, $80,000 is more than 50% of the revenues that this body brings in.
Okay, that was my own question. And I do thank you guys for your time tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to follow up.
Sure, of course.
Okay. I'm not going to history, but I'm going to talk about something in the agreement, in the proposal. Some things that are of concern to me, and I think they've been brought up by some people. On the first page, they said, talking about City of Rome improve the designated athletic facilities in the entire park. I want us to be knowing what the entire park means. Sure. Okay. Then on another page, it's under Profiles of Rollingwood Park Trust. It says controlled by J.R. Kraft. Okay. Then on the next page, it talks about that the fields will be used from February through end of May for the spring season, beginning of September through mid-November for the fall season. In addition, both leagues use the fields in a much smaller capacity for the month of June for any of our athletic or all city. Now, what happens in between? Right now, as it stands, the public has access to the entire park when it's not in season. And I want to make sure that the city will make sure that that continues. Okay? Then there's another issue here which talks about renovate the field house into a functioning cafe and restaurant. What I wanted to say earlier was that field house was it was spearheaded, the demolition of the existing building and the construction of the new Doyle Moore was entirely spearheaded by Catherine Horn, and we got donations for the construction of that building. And it was hard-earned money. And $75,000 came from Mr. Doyle Moore himself, his son, Dr. Frosty Moore, who put us over the top. $25,000 was donated building materials. And so many donations and so much money. Part bricks were sold by the community. all of that, I cannot imagine that you want to renovate that, or the new lessee, whatever, wants to renovate that without a consultation, inputs from our community, okay? That's a very serious matter. And then there's another statement which says that the field house and the other new revenue streams created and formed, okay, it says that they can do, okay, here, RWPT will diligently work towards creating and expanding upon the historical revenue streams, and it will be not limited to the field house. What about our walking trail? That was again sweat equity. Okay, the people that volunteered, and Tony Hudson here organized it. There were 90 people and 50 people another day. We moved some 400 tons of gravel. We created 900 linear feet of the 1400 linear feet. So thinking of moving that or changing that has to have a lot of input. It's sweat equity. And don't even get me started on the Rollingwood Women's Club. I could go on. But I just wanted to point out that these are the issues that really bother me.
Sure.
And
we can't just give them away.
I would like to make one correction to what Shanti said. It was actually Sandra Farrell's baby, that walking trail, not mine. It was her baby, and she did almost all of what made life there now. So I can't take that credit, so thank you.
Sorry.
So I just wanted to make one comment, and for those who have sat in meetings with me before know that I love to make them. I used to be on Parks, and I've been on RCDC. I just wanted to be very clear. We were not given any materials to review prior to this meeting. I literally have no idea what that document holds. So I don't know if the objective is to simply have the comments on public record or to vent, but there's nothing, I'm in business. I don't respond to something on the spot. I like to read
I know,
it.
you don't have to read it right now. Do you want to copy those
I would love
when you get home?
Thank you. But I want to be productive, and I think the message is loud and clear, but I don't know how many times, to me, it doesn't make sense. Wrap it up.
Okay, I appreciate and I respect that. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, everybody. And just to reiterate the point, this is far from the last conversation.
I have a question. So the lease is due in August 1st? September.
There, to answer your question, on the City Council agenda for next week, City Council will take up how to handle an interim period with the current leasee so that there is not a gap period while we discuss these things. So that's kind of over to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, talk to Amber, yes. Okay. Everybody, thank you all very much. I'm wide open. Call me, email me, Amber, anyone
I will.
you need. Please do. Thank you all very much.
Thanks.
You can also feel free to stay. We've got more to discuss.
Will this be constituted not taking action on the agenda item?
That's right.
Number 5, yeah, we're not going to.
So we will close out number 5. And I did want to reiterate to the Board Commission my sincerest apologies, guys. Hey, I tell you what, I'm just trying to tee you all up for your eventual run for City Council. And so it's it was an instance where I felt the importance, as you guys witnessed, the need to start this conversation in the public sphere before the fear of the unknown spiraled out of control for everyone and drove them mad.
My issue, which has always been an issue, and has come up park master plan and everything else, is our inability as volunteers to communicate with the rest of the community is extremely frustrating. So those that don't have all that information can, and it creates this, and I don't need my head on a spear, that the end of a long
Yeah.
day.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I'm pretty sure it's just mine on the spear. So.
Well, it's yours every day. That, you're the mayor. That's
All right. Sorry. Our
You make the big bucks.
legal counsel is asking us to stay on the agenda. So.
Well, I mean, that's a valid point, though. I mean, maybe not exactly like that, but is there anything that RCDC can do, or other councils, or as far as the dissemination of information?
No, you have to resign and be a
I know that we have. I know that, but there has to be a better way to communicate, like to push out these topics. I mean, maybe not.
Maybe. I will tell you.
No one looks bad.
You're absolutely right. And I started on city council in 2015 and said the same thing. Yeah. And everybody that has started on city council after me has said the similar
But
thing.
where did they get this?
That was presented at the last city council.
And
in truth, I.
But it's not on the website yet, because I was scouring the internet trying to find it during the meeting, so I understand what to go.
Perhaps we can talk to administration about
put that on the
having that available.
And I apologize that y'all didn't get your packets. I don't know what happened with that, so I'm sorry about that. We'll get that cleared up. And then, Mary, to your question about a way to push out information, we are working on a new website. And also, I don't know if y'all have heard, but Robin's retiring. Our goal with the new city secretary will be to use that website more proactively and to push out notifications so that you can go in, you can sign up, you can get notified via text or email both when an agenda is posted, and you can go right there.
Sounds like we should just put a sign on the back of the baseball field about the agenda items during the meeting, because everyone seems to drive by that and have a big saying. I mean, everyone drives by it.
Just don't light up the billboard.
Just don't light it up. I mean,
I think you need to light it up, otherwise people will generally drive by.
Yeah, I mean,
folks need to get fired up for something. So if nothing else, at least we get to see the community excited about this.
All right.
Number 6, discussion of possible action. Sorry.
We don't need any motions there?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Discussion of possible action on a recommendation to the City Council regarding the creation and development of a community business development program aimed to promote and connect professionals in the city of Rollingwood. Susan, this has been on our agenda for a little while. This goes back to a conversation that we had quite some time ago that I thought was borderline brilliant. We haven't had an opportunity to discuss it. I think it's a brilliant opportunity, and we haven't had an opportunity to discuss it. I brought it back to the agenda, and I'm hoping not to put you on the spot after this, but maybe if you wanted to give the board a couple minutes to talk.
So the idea was with Eames, especially elementary being a bust school, you don't have a lot of opportunity to kind of interact day to day, especially if you're a working professional, and one like me that works from home, so you're quite isolated. And going to some of the events, I hadn't realized how many of the parents, in particular women, who also worked and just kind of making that network within the community. I feel like the different professional networking groups surrounding our neighborhood are predominantly men, and I know that there was some sensitivity to having a women's networking group, but I think it could be a really interesting kind of point of distinction and something unique to Rollingwood that other communities don't have, where we can start in Rollingwood and draw in women from our surrounding communities. And whether it's a quarterly event to start and maybe it becomes a monthly event, but have an opportunity for professional women to get to know each other, their careers, further their careers, be a support base, bring in speakers, whatnot, etc. But just to kind of put Rollingwood on in a different light from the other Chamber of Commerce's in the surrounding communities. So it's early thoughts, but something that I think could be interesting to explore.
So I have a couple of questions about that. So the women's club does do some of that, right? To some degree, they have. I mean, it is like women like together, and they do professionally. I don't know simplify this, but there is like some interaction and networking that occurs. And they have speakers as well.
Yes and no. I think that I think the distinction is if it's a working women's professional networking group, that's something that when you go to an event, say Westlake Hills or whatnot, that it's, no offense, I assume probably older men, and I think it's hard to break in, especially as a younger woman, and especially as one that wasn't born and raised in Austin. So given that Rollingwood has seen a lot of turnover in the community, and it's one of the neighborhoods that's close to downtown Austin, but is more transient than, say, Tarrytown, I think it's a great way for people coming into the community to also kind of establish roots beyond their kids, or establish roots if they don't have kids.
Yeah. I mean, we have a men's group, which I'm a men's club. What is it called? I'm not part of that.
Gentlemen's club.
Yeah. I don't know. Is it called Gentlemen's Club? Is that actually what it's
Yes.
Okay, fine.
My wife wouldn't let me join.
That's why I thought it was a Gentlemen's Club. No, but so like, and I know this is early discussion, but I mean, we have that group. There's the women's club. So there's two entities already in place. I think if we went down this path, like leveraging their already in like.
Well, the men's club is different. It's more social. Those are old boys club. That's not. I know my husband's in it. Half the men in this neighborhood are in it.
I guess where I was going with that is there's some traction already to those groups, and if you're going to do a professional organization, like what you're like a networking group, and this is me being biased, I would like to be a little more inclusive, just because.
I disagree.
There's not.
I totally disagree, because I think 90% of the stuff is male driven, and you're not a woman, and it's much more difficult to network and break in. I think any guy can go to Gentlemen's Club and strike a deal or a glass of scotch, and that is not the environment that the Women's Club has. So if you set the tone immediately on, I think it would be more productive, and you get a different demographic of people attending those meetings. I'm not asking for any money.
Obviously, because you would be secluding an entire group of people. I mean.
I'm not asking for any money. It's, can we meet on a night? Do I have to have approval to just invite people to my house? Fine. But I thought it was something that, as we're looking to grow the kind of commercial side of Rollingwood, that this would be something that is more unique to our community that other communities don't have.
Amber, can people use this space here for a meeting like that if they preserve it? So that's one place, yeah.
So one of the things that I really did like, we obviously, both as a city and specifically as a corporation, we've been endeavoring and really putting a lot of effort and fun into driving community awareness, right, and really separating Rollingwood as a unique community. One of the things I think I liked most about the proposal is the simple fact that from a business and commercial standpoint, there aren't any organizations, certainly not any organizations that communicate to folks in our community here, and in the realm in which Susan described, right? So if we're able to do that, that's a difference maker, right? That starts a conversation about our community, how this takes on a life and what it evolves into. I'd love to see it, right? And if nothing else, it starts a conversation. I hope that it's beyond beneficial to any number of people that may be involved with it. Let's start a conversation about what Rollingwood is doing and what Rollingwood is endeavoring to do from a business perspective. That's my 2 cents on it. As far as inclusivity, my only concern there at all was whether or not a foundation or a group with public funds is able to support any kind of endeavor or group that is not inclusive. That aside from that, advertise. I don't know if that's the question or if it is a question or concern, but we want to vet that. And then I would assume that the option there is to advertise that it is a women's professional group without necessarily precluding individual employment. Those are my 2 cents. And the short answer is, I really hope kind of run with the idea. And if RCDC can be supportive in any way, I'd like us to talk about it again.
I wasn't opposed to it, I was just trying to get more.
No, it's all right.
There's
I wasn't suggesting that you
there's
wasn't.
no plan. It was an idea over coffee that, again, trying to figure out how Rollingwood can be different from every other little city around us.
Any other thoughts or comments? Okay.
So not taking action on this one.
No, right? No action. So discussion and possible action on a resolution to amend the budget for the Rollingwood Community Development Corporation for the fiscal year 2018-2019 to effect the transfers of funds as set forth in attachment A5 to this notice of public meeting. Now, here's on the downside. I don't have an A5.
Yeah, it was in the package that I got.
Got it. You got a package?
I didn't get a package.
I didn't either.
You have to ask for
Neither
it.
did Becky.
I asked.
You had to ask for it?
I emailed, I didn't start looking for
I
it,
didn't get one either.
but I emailed Robin this afternoon, she sent me one.
Okay.
She sent it to the city, she sent the whole package to the city council, but not to
We
us.
didn't get
No agenda.
I don't know what happened.
That's the fine.
I'm so sorry.
I understand.
I didn't know I was on the agenda.
But, okay, I so moved the resolution be approved.
This got both pages, that's so this is the same thing right here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
We have a motion to approve
The budget transfer,
budget transfer.
we approved this last meeting.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, so this is just paperwork.
Y'all approved the project, you went through the project, it's for the commercial corridor
Study, yeah.
And so we are asking to transfer what you had funded for legal fees for BK right away because that's not
Gonna happen, yeah.
legitimate project gonna happen this year. You had funded that to an amount of $30,000. We are asking to take $26,000, which is what the commercial corridor study is going to cost, transfer that into that line item and use that.
Can you say that one more time? Let's go through that again. So what is not happening?
Legal fees for BK right-of-way acquisition. So there is a project to widen BK Road from Oval from the, okay. One of the responsibilities the city of Rollingwood will have is to provide match in the form of right-of-way acquisition. And so RCDC, knowing that that's the commercial corridor, has always funded some portion that hopefully this project will eventually materialize and they can participate in that. But there's, TxDOT is still redesigning the project, and so the right-of-way acquisition will not.
So this is a matching grant for TxDOT, right? That's what it was. Is that right?
It's not a matching grant. They are going to co-sponsor with us. They're going to pay for 90%, but we are required to bring 10% in the form of right-of-way.
So that $26,000 that was allocated, we're now asking to reallocate that to the corridor study that we already approved last time. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. So it's been 2 months, but I remember this last meeting there was some disagreement on what that study looked like, or what that RFP would look like. Has that already been sent out?
So
where's that?
the consternation was having a greater level of definition on the deliverables.
Yes.
Those concerns went from RCDC to City Council.
Okay.
City Council took action largely through our city attorney, who helped really refine and define on our Exhibit A what the deliverables and what that schedule looked like. So we had 2 public readings. They've had 2 public hearings on this. Those happened. Once those were complete, Retail Coach was officially engaged upon the approval of council, and they are roughly 2 weeks now, I think, into the study.
Their work last week,
Right. Just one more question then. And Susan had some questions about the proposal and if we were going to get value out of it. Were those taken into account?
Yes.
Were those taken into account?
I gave all my questions.
Okay.
Yeah, and so those all of that feedback made it to discussion points at the city council level. City council level heard you, gave instruction to city attorney to draft, and I think there might have even been a little more back and forth with retail coach, really getting them to define what the value add there was. And the biggest question I think the city and even RCDC is going to have, so with regard to the information that's coming out of that, the involvement of retail coach, what do we do with that data? And how do we use that data to the benefit of the businesses?
Okay.
So,
I think we're going to use that data for revised zoning in some cases.
That's right. And ideally, it'll hopefully will give RCDC a roadmap as to where best we can see our projects going forward, where our dollars can best impact beneficially our business. Okay. Any other comments on 7? 8?
That's it.
7 we approved.
We only have a motion, we haven't had a second.
Oh, sorry.
We made a motion to approve it.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Do we have a second? I'll second. I forget. You know, sooner than mayor, I can't do anything. Here, I actually have a voice. I'll second the motion. Do we have any conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Do we need to hear more ayes?
Sorry, I was trying.
That's your call. You know,
Okay.
all in favor, aye, and then all opposed. And if you hear 0 opposed, you can assume
then you can
all the
close
ayes
it.
were in there.
And yeah, got it. Perfect. Thank you, sir. All right. Hearing no no's, motion passes. Thank you. 8, informational presentation by RCDC Legal Counsel Charles Eck regarding Type B economic development corporations. We are pushing that, right? Thanks, sir.
To next meeting?
Yes, and that was largely in the interest of time.
Okay.
Review the RCDC's financial reports and annual budget as of April 30th, 2019. Treasurer? Sorry. I'll tell you what.
Here, I'll tell you the answer here real quick.
Okay.
The sales tax revenue for the month was $15,166.53, and we're 2/3 of the way done for the year. And our goal for the sales tax was $153,000, and we're actual for 106. And you put 15 in, you annualize the 106 that we've already collected, we should be at 166 by the end of the year. So we'll go over budget by $13,000 in actual additional revenue.
I think that's probably a result of the branding. So, well done.
All right.
We'll find that.
That's basically, that's all.
Thanks. Okay. Finally, if there's no other discussion, we'll move to adjournment.
Make a motion.
Second. Well, we got any number of seconds, which tells me we got a bunch of ayes. Any opposed to adjourning?
Are you looking to fill a vacancy?
I was actually going to ask about
sorry, yeah, and it's not on the agenda, so we've adjourned.
Okay.
But Josh McKay, thank you very much for